Hello, hello, hello. Just going to wait a couple of moments. While we are waiting for today's guest on Soul Sessions, let's maybe just take a couple of deep breaths to center ourselves. So just closing your eyes. Deep breath in through your nose and then exhale out through your mouth. And let's do two more. Oh yeah, it feels so much better. So today we are talking about self-expression and what it means to be self-expressed and to be in our fullest expression. So I am going to be chatting to a lovely woman that I studied with back in 2021. We both did a course called Step Into Your Light Worker, and it was really a opening and a connection for us to uncover our spiritual gifts and our abilities. But also in the process, we did a lot of healing, or I personally did a lot of healing on myself, and the outcome of that was that I was able to become fully expressed and to speak up for myself and to be able to express myself, because it's something that I've always struggled with over the years. And this is a really big, passionate topic. So I will welcome Dineshri into the call and we'll get started. Bear with me. It doesn't want to do that. Give me 1 second. There we go. Bit of a delay. We will get there.
Here we go.
Hello.
Hello.
Sorry, the technology sometimes doesn't work for me.
And it's always just before you've got like a live to do or something really important.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hilarious.
How are you?
I'm really good. Really good.
Oh, excellent. So good to see your face and talk to you.
And it's been a little while.
Yeah. Thank you for agreeing to come on this live today. I'm so excited to talk about self-expression mainly, but for everyone that's tuning into this live, can you maybe give us a little spiel, a little intro about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Dineshri.
Not what you do.
Yeah, who I am. My name is Dineshri. A lot of people call me Dinny or Dee as well. And basically what I do is I work with women to unlock their creative energy and connect back into their, well, not connect back, but connect to their intuition to really find who they are, what their dreams are, what their desires are, you know, what it is that they really want out of life. And through that, it's tapping into your creative energy, because that unlocks a whole different space. And within your creative energy, you connect to your creative energy through your sexual energy, and it's through really learning about who you are to then tap into your intuition and navigate the space of knowing, is this the right direction or is this the right direction? And those things become really, really easy. So I work with women to do that. And then also I've been in the corporate world for like, gosh, 20 plus years. And I was that woman that would be on the go all the time, heavily in my masculine energy. And we'll tap on this a little later, because there was fear around allowing my feminine to lead. And so I was burning out. My background's in contracting and in marketing. So I'd go into a contract, work super hard and completely burn out, not give myself any time to rest. The reward was at the end rather than during and in the middle and before, to optimize your energy and just be in this beautiful place of pleasure and joy and operate from that space. So that was a huge learning curve for me. Yeah. And then it was deconstructing all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's quite common for most, I think, predominantly females in a corporate world as well, because I had a really negative experience, like you said, in the corporate world, and it's really common. But I think also having the awareness and the education on how to navigate that and be in a space of joy and you know, harmony, rather than from a place of, you know, stress and exhaustion and overwhelm, and then obviously the result is burning out. So yeah.
And it's that stress and that overwhelm that we're so used to because we've grown up in a patriarchal society. It's, you know, a man's world, and so we operate how, you know, what men think the way things should be. And as women, we have a completely different energy base. We're on a 28-day, give or take, 28-day cycle for our period, but that actually runs through how we operate through our life. So the different energetics through that phase are affected with how the decisions that we make and how we wake up during those days, and, you know, what it is that we really want to do and what's the best space to, you know, flow through. And whereas men are 24-hour cycles. So there's huge difference in that. And so now it's coming into this space. Something else that I do tap into and teach a lot about is feminine leadership. What does that look like? What does that mean? And how do we operate from our feminine energy with ease and with flow, and having that calm energy through it? And again, connecting to your intuition to then learn, okay, this is where I flow with ease, and that's okay, and this is where I can operate from. So identifying what you need in that space as well.
Yeah, because I guess, you know, we're trying to meet the masculine energy in a corporate environment, but it's not going to work for us as females, because we're not, you know, we're not wired that way. Like you said, we have a longer cycle, and I feel as though
I've just lost your sound. There you go.
I'm back.
Yeah, you're back.
Sorry, I had a phone call. But I think as women, our creative expression really comes out when we're able to slow down and connect to our femininity and our true desires and our true intentions from a heart space, rather than from, you know, a space of anxiety or fear that we're going to not be good enough or not be as good as our counterparts. So it's a completely different ball game for women, I think.
Yeah, and then learning within that, it's learning to trust yourself. To know to so for me in the corporate space, I used to go in, I'm a recovering people pleaser. So I would adapt whilst there's the shadow and the dark with that, the light and the dark with that. I used to adapt myself in any situation. And what that meant is I wasn't able to, or didn't think I could, be my full self in this space, because I couldn't show emotions. I had to just go, do. And when I needed things, I couldn't ask for it because of fear of getting fired. And I've mentioned this in a previous post before and got a lot of DMs around this, that it's still such a thing. Whereas, you know, trusting who we are and learning that ability to trust who we are and feeling safe within our body and feeling safe, and also coming to this space of forgiveness for our past mistakes. We can't go back and change it. So learn to love those parts of ourselves and have compassion and then move forward through that. It's within that space that you can free yourself up to express yourself in any which way that you need, creatively, sexually, just, you know, being who you are and not being afraid of being in those situations where, you know, oh, what if they don't like me? If they don't like me, they're not my people.
Yeah, absolutely.
If this situation doesn't feel good, okay, I'm going to take myself out of it. And having those abilities and set boundaries and keep your standards where they need to be, rather than dropping them down to meet everybody else. It's like, well, no, this is what I desire. This is what I want. And keeping that energetic vibration within then comes through and aligns, and you get all the people that align with who you are. Or, you know, at another level, that you can raise your consciousness and all of those sorts of things. So it's a really beautiful gift to be able to come into that space of trust, harmony, as you mentioned as well, and feeling safe within, to then verbally express yourself, ask for what you need, creatively express yourself. And there's so much power in the creative expression, and I love it.
Yeah, it's just, that is your jam, isn't it?
Oh, it's so my jam. So my jam.
Yeah, it's really interesting, the trust and the safety, I think, because as a people pleaser,
recovering people pleaser,
former people pleaser, but it's almost as though through wanting to seek, for me, it was about seeking external validation to prove my worth. So I would always try to please people in order to get what I thought I needed or what I thought I wanted. Yeah. But, you know, obviously, all of the healing and through working with Britt as well, it all really comes back to trusting yourself and also understanding and connecting to who you are and, you know, some of the things that make you who you are. And we had a really beautiful session when we did Step Into Your Light Worker for me. And it really allowed me to realize that I didn't trust my body because I wasn't connected to it. And it's almost like, if you're not connected to your body, how can you trust it? Because the trust, I feel, comes from your body, comes from your energy, and being in harmony with your body, your mind, and your spirit all as one. So there's so many different elements to it, but I think the trust is the big one, which comes back to your belief in yourself and the ability to then be fully expressed and just to own who you are and you know, love that and wear that with confidence. So, yeah.
So, question for you, how did you connect to your body? What were the steps that you took?
I think the realization that I was disconnected really opened up my awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's an ongoing process. I am still in the process of reconnecting to my body because I feel as though I had been disconnected for 30 odd years. And for me, it was about acknowledging and feeling pain and emotion and allowing that to just come up and without judgment or without criticism of myself. And then I think just having the practice of meditating and doing energy work has helped me as well, because I feel as though sometimes when you're disconnected from your body, you are in your head too much, and that was me for most of my life, perhaps, but probably the
You're
last.
Not alone with that one. I think there's a lot of us.
Let's say.
Yeah, yeah.
So for me, it was about sort of creating a practice that allowed me to get out of my head and connecting to my body through meditation and being out in nature and grounding myself. So yeah, recently I will just share, I have chosen to go off contraception because I felt that was a little bit of a block. I've been on contraception my whole life.
Yeah, right.
And I chose to have it removed, and I got a few questions at the doctor's, but I said, you know, it's my choice, it's my body, and I want to see like what my body does without it. So yeah,
I think that's
still...
also, yeah, I think that's also another really important side to mention, is that connection to our body through our period. So we have it every month. Within society, there's so much shame around that, and it's not a shameful process. It's actually incredibly healing. And like I applaud you for getting off contraception, because like, you know, that can be an inner battle in itself, right? And when you're off it, it's a huge step with reconnecting to your body, because you're now learning the different waves that it goes through, and it's going to be different to when you were on it, on contraception. For me, I was quite, I say lucky now. I was on contraception in my early 20s, but used to get focal migraines, and then went to the doctor to go back on it. And she was like, what are you doing? You're going to get a stroke. You run the high risk of getting a stroke if you go back on to the pill. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to do it. And then it was just not an interest for me with any other option at all. I was like, nah, okay, cool. So I haven't been on it for a good, I don't know, 15, 18 years or so.
Wow, okay.
But I was still disconnected from my body.
Okay.
I didn't understand my cycle. Yeah, and only now, as a 40-year-old woman, am I completely connected and just learning what's going on for myself and, you know, tuning in. And that's because I've reconnected to my intuition.
Yeah.
So for me, you mentioned like, yeah, it was that...
You've done so much healing now as well. So I think combined, doing the work and doing the healing and working through perhaps why you have been disconnected, and then connecting back into, you know, your menstrual cycle as well. You have, you know, a double-ended weapon to be able to go about your life, you know, being you and understanding how your body works, and
Yeah.
you know, just honoring that, I think, as well. So yeah, I think that
Honoring
has
that and
played.
having such power in that. Like we
Yeah.
get to shed every month the things that are going on in our body. We get to bleed that out and come into harmony. And I love the fact that you said harmony. For like within our body and within who we are, because that's so key, is to come with compassion through every element. And we're humans, right? There's a misconception that we're here to be completely healed and okay, cool, I'm completely healed. No one's ever completely healed. And it's the journey. Our journey is to feel all of those emotions and understand more of who we are, and coming to this place where, you know, we'll be triggered for the rest of our lives in different elements, and those triggers are to show us, are to guide us into what spaces within us we haven't fully accepted yet, or we don't have the full compassion for. And when we do, and we come with that compassion, our reaction to certain situations are completely different and more. For me, it's been more gentle, it's been calmer, it's been opened up and using my voice to communicate, and speaking up when I needed something. And especially my area was within relationships. And I was recently dating someone, and it was still such a challenge to speak up to him about what I needed. But I was like, okay, well, there's either the old way of just like getting really frustrated, not talking to him, and you know, just
it all inside,
ended it, whatever, or have the uncomfortable conversations that became quite comfortable because of the man that he is, and then the healing work that I've done. So there's that aspect of, you know, knowing myself more and coming into the space and clearly expressing my needs and all of those sorts of things. It's such a wave of a journey, and feeling those emotions are incredibly key for us to feel through it. Not just go, oh, I'm meant to be positive. Okay, I can't feel shitty because that's not positive. No, feel the shittiness.
Yeah.
Feel the heartbreak. Feel the pain. Feel the anger. Feel the frustration, and move through it to allow your body to release it from your body. Because if you hold it in, that's where it manifests in disease, in pain, like chronic pain. You get the body aches, you get the this, and it's feeling through those emotions and coming back into a space of joy and love and compassion, and not being so much in here and dropping into your heart. So key, but a journey to learn, of course.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with expression. For me, in my experience, I have always struggled to be able to communicate how I feel to people, and you know, it affected my friendships and my relationships, because it must have been really frustrating for people to see me upset, or you know, when you feel triggered but you can't really explain to someone why you feel that way, or you know, what you need in that moment to be able to move past it. And through not speaking up about my feelings and my emotions, I would just suppress everything inside me until it would just eventually explode into, you know, a really uncomfortable scene of tears. And, you know, it was at work some of the time, and I was just really embarrassed how emotional I used to get. But it's because I wasn't dealing with my emotions, I wasn't expressing them. And therefore, it was almost as though they, you know, took over my body, because I didn't have the emotional intelligence that I have now through doing the work and doing the healing. But I now am able to respond quicker when things trigger me, or you know, I get upset about something. Before I had this intelligence, I would feel triggered by something but then not do anything about it. So it would just accumulate in my body. And then, you know, one day I'd get really upset at my partner, I'd lose it over something little, but really it's something underlying that I wasn't able to express to him. And, you know, I think now I feel in a much better space. You know, it has improved our relationship because of the work that I'm doing. And I can now express what I need in that moment. You know, you made me feel like this. Next time, it would be good if you could do this because I need to feel safe, loved, whatever it is. So, yeah, I think for me, expression is more verbal. It's my wounding and my journey with it. So I guess it's different for everyone. And what I might ask you is, what does expression mean to you? Because it can mean so many different things to different people.
What does expression mean to me? I love this question. I think it really is about feeling into who you truly are and not being afraid by that.
Yeah.
And feeling confident and comfortable enough to speak your truth and say what you need. And knowing that those people who are going to fight back on those elements are not your people, and that's okay. It's being very comfortable with yourself and just, you know, not being afraid of. I used to be worried about being so bright I had to dim my light, and I was dimming my own light in so many other situations because to make them feel more comfortable. And self-expression and true self-expression is you can be who you are no matter what.
Yeah.
You can be who you are no matter what in any situation, and that's beautiful and that's perfectly okay. And whilst that is a sense of being, working through our emotional state, there's so many different levels of expression. There's singing, there's dancing, like movement, meditation, yoga, going to the gym, creative writing, poetry, you know, playing music. We have, as humans, such a gift to be able to really feel. And we can only share the depths of our emotions to the depths that we allow ourselves to feel. And that can come out in any which way. And you know, you can resonate with somebody when it's coming from here as opposed to their soul expression. And there's such a difference. And that's okay when there's that difference. It just means that, you know, that person, let them work through their ways of connecting deeper into their soul, because every single person has their own journey and it's their own story, and they're not wrong for any decisions that they make. We create the story that they are wrong because it's based on our interpretation. But for their life and who they are and their path, they're going through it as they need to. And so remembering that has helped me through a lot of different situations. I digress a little, but also within that space, that's where you remember that, okay, this is who I am. This is who I get to be. And I love who I am. And I love the person that I get to be with everybody around me, and just being in your essence of being.
I think that's the thing as well, not to judge other people for how they express themselves, especially when you might feel triggered by it. Because I think usually that's what's happening, is you're being triggered by someone else's big energy perhaps, and it's sort of coming back onto you because maybe you're not in your fullest expression, or you're not being your true self, and not caring what people think if you act or behave in a certain way because perhaps, you know, it's too much or it's too whatever it is. And I think I speak from experience, but I think we take on these personalities of expressing ourselves in a certain way for certain people, i.e., you know, family, jobs, certain friendships, and you start to believe that identity almost until you start to do the work and uncover, you know, why you're doing that. So yeah, I think it's really interesting when you're triggered by other people, but I think when you are in your fullest expression, you don't care. You don't care what other people think of you because it doesn't matter, and it doesn't really. You know, you know yourself and your expression, and you're content and you're happy and you're fulfilled. So nothing else really matters.
Really, a space where this happens a lot is a woman who owns her sexual energy. Triggers the fuck out of a lot of other women who aren't completely connected to their sexual energy. And I've been that person that's been triggered, and then I've also been that person that has triggered other women. And I have a few friends that are strippers, and I remember being in a room with them and also going to their workplace and just watching them do their thing and just going, wow, you know, like, wow. And then being in a room we were out socially and just going, wow, like they just have this natural sense of energy of who they are, and they own their sexuality, and it shines so bright through them. And then they're also connecting, and then watching creative people who are not strippers, but creative people who express themselves through the arts of painting, writing, music. And there is that same element of energy that I could see in both. And then I realized that actually they're the one and the same. Our creative energy and our sexual energy is the same, and it's our connection to source. So there's those three elements that are so strong, but like, you know, can trigger everybody and anybody who's not connected to that. And when you realize that your sexual energy and your creative energy and connection to source is one and the same, you learn how to channel it in different ways. And then I think for women, it's owning their sexuality, and that comes as part of who they are and feeling that. And then that's where you get to play with the dark feminine energy, and then the light feminine energy, and the various different archetypes of, you know, the nurturing, the mother, and then also, you know, the playful being, and the goddess, and, you know, the medicine woman, and all of those different archetypes. And it's connecting us back into within to understand who we truly are. And understanding who you truly are is the space of freedom within self-expression of being who you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, obviously understanding yourself and really getting to know all of yourself and accept all of these parts of yourself is really important. And I think the biggest thing is accepting the darker side of you, and the side of you perhaps that you might suppress or you might not show to people because it's you know, not acceptable or confronting. But
to society,
you know,
not acceptable.
Yeah, and I think obviously, like, the sexual energy is a big thing. Like, it's sort of, you know, being taboo and not really spoken about. But I think in connecting to those darker parts, or those parts of you perhaps that not everybody sees, and removing the guilt and the shame around that, and you know, even being able to have a conversation about that on social media or with someone is so powerful. And I think there is always a darkness when there's light, so it's about that balance. So it makes total sense when you start to dive into your identity and learning about, you know, who you are and what's happened or why you do things a certain way and how that has affected your current reality. And when you start to dive into the dark side, it balances, and then you come into this space where everything sort of meets in the middle, and you're able to open up more, and you're able to connect to your true essence, which essentially is, you know, your fullest expression of yourself. So
completely.
I think owning the darkness and not trying to change it, not trying to not trying to suppress it or change it, but just accepting it and letting it have some space.
Completely and totally agree. Learning to accept it, learn to come with compassion, learn to love every part of yourself, even the hysteric moments that we go through and the like super angry moments and like we lash out, and then going, okay, that was clearly a part of me that needed more love, that needed nourishing, and I didn't listen, and that's why I reacted in this way. And having the ability to use emotional intelligence to go into that space and understand more and build that self-awareness of why that has happened. For me, I was there was a guy a little while ago of interest, and a whole lot happened within that space. And we got in conversations about the dark feminine energy. And this is another misconception in the spiritual world, that the dark feminine energy is bad. The dark feminine energy is not bad at all. It's because we cut through the fucking bullshit and we can see someone's intentions straight away. And we can see the shit that plays around that however they, whatever they're doing, we can see where they're in alignment and out of alignment, and we can hone in on that. And honestly, it's a gift. And this is also the space where we can own our sexuality and be who we are and fall in love with ourselves as sexual beings and being that goddess and all of those sorts of things. And also not shaming that. And another element where that can stem from the dark feminine is our anger. And I remember having a discussion with this person, and stuff had happened, and I was calling out his bullshit, and he had mentioned to me that he was worried I was going to yell at him. And for a split second, first thing I said was, I'm not going to yell at you. Like, when have I ever yelled at you? And then, but within that split second, there was this shame on the fact that I felt angry and guilt that, oh shit, like I would do him wrong. And then straight away after that, I was like, hang on a minute, my feelings are valid. I felt angry, and that's okay. If I lashed out in that way, not ideal, because like I don't want to, it's not my space anymore to react in like through anger and yell at somebody. It's having that conversation. And that took a long journey, because it was coming from living through anger for so long and coming into peace and harmony and through love. When you live in that space, it doesn't mean that you allow people to walk all over you. You have the emotional intelligence to have better conversations around that. And so that shaming that I was in around my anger, I was then able to clear. And it was just such a beautiful space and a beautiful conversation, because I was like, no, you know, that's his stuff. If he's worried about my dark feminine energy, which is fucking strong, then that's his thing to work through. And if he's worried about my anger, then that's his thing to work through. That's not on me.
That's it.
And then I met this other guy that could handle all of that, and not once did we ever like kind of lash out to each other, because that's just not who he is, and that's not who I am. But that dark feminine space, I was like, oh, okay, I can play with this a little more. And like, you know,
how powerful does that feel though?
God, it's so sexy and it's so yummy. And it's like, whew, yeah. But it's again coming back to realizing that other people have their journeys, that's their story, and that's okay. It's not in my space or anybody else's space to take on that other person's story. It's staying true. You're aligned with what you're doing. And sometimes, even myself, I've been out of alignment. I haven't been, you know, aligned with my integrity, but I learn from it. And if I can acknowledge that, I can shift that as well into a place that feels better for me. But we're never going to 100% of the time be perfect, and perfection doesn't exist. So again, the human element of feeling all the things and doing all the things to learn more about ourselves, to be able to express ourselves in, you know, in beautiful ways, and learning what this means when you express it through anger. Okay, cool, there's an issue there. Let's build that self-awareness. Oh, it's coming through love, and you handle things differently and you communicate things differently. And that's such an incredible space to be in.
Absolutely. I think when you have those moments like you explained, where you recognize that you could take back your power instead of giving it away, and perhaps slip back into people-pleasing mode where you're concerned about other people and how they're going to react to what you say, or how you might affect them. When you are connected to that fully expressed version of yourself, you recognize that it's not you, it's actually a trigger for them. And that's okay. That's, you know, that's their journey and where they're at. And it's not your fault how they react to something that you say, unless obviously you intentionally mean harm by it.
Yeah. I know, this is the thing about human behavior and psychology. It's like, you know, nothing's ever necessarily black and white. It's 50 shades of gray. You know, there's so many different elements to it because of these various different levels. Like, you and I could go into an experience, or you and I could, you know, have this conversation and could possibly have two completely different experiences based on our thought patterns, based on our conditioning, based on our experience, and all of these sorts of things. And that could be in any situation. So the human psyche and human behavior is so fascinating for these very, 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 very same reasons. So I love it. Love all this stuff.
I think probably old me would have been triggered by your confidence and your ability to not give a fuck, really. Your essence comes across. Because I think sometimes as women we get triggered, but we also get a sense of jealousy when we see other people thriving. And I think it's really important to let people know, you know, if they're having that reaction, that it's okay, but it's just something that's being triggered in you, because your soul wants to come out. It wants to be, you know, confident and fully expressed, and it wants to not care what anyone else thinks if you dance around your house naked and your neighbors see, or something, you know, that you would normally hide. So I think identifying those triggers when they come up and allowing them to be the vehicle for you to express yourself more, or do more of the things that make you feel good and make you feel sexy, make you feel confident. So
yeah. I think the important thing to highlight with that is that there's still spaces where I give a fuck. Like, there's still situations where I'll go in and I'm like, oh God, what if they think of this? Like, and these are the elements that aren't necessarily always communicated and aren't necessarily known by other people because of the perception that they have, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's been a time where I was confident through anger. Fuck everybody else. Fuck you. Fuck what they think. Like, fuck off. I'm just going to do this because this is my space. Where that has now shifted, because I've shifted how I look at anger and how I manage that in a completely different way. It's not one of my core emotions anymore that I live through. Whilst under that was still that space of love, joy, playfulness, because I'm always laughing in any situation, and I'm always doing this in any situation, and I'm always coming across as like being quite confident and happy, where I was struggling. But then now it's like I come into a space, and this is the self-expression that we've been talking about and owning who we are. I come into a space and there'll be those old moments that will creep in where I'll go, and then it's like, I get to be me. I get to be me. I get to do all the things I want to do. I get to shine my light bright. I get to just give my energy, love and play and joy, and just be that person. And if they're not okay with it, that's on them. And I'm just gonna, I have love in my heart. My core emotions has removed that element of pure anger. And the pure anger was basically from, there were various different situations, but it was from sexual abuse when I was younger, and carrying and suppressing that emotions. And I remember, like, it was through a son of a family friend, and then I had nieces and nephews, and we were all like in the same space together, and I was so tense, and I carried the anger, and I was like, if he does anything to my nieces and my nephew, and I was always eagle eye around them and all of that kind of stuff, but that carried through my whole life. Then there were situations of assault, then there were situations, with regards to rape, then there were situations of sexual harassment, almost my whole career. So there were all of this anger, and it was me shutting down. And through the shutdown, it was putting on weight so I didn't appear to be more attractive. It was like eating unhealthy. It was not looking after myself. It was, getting deeper in the depression and suppression. And so that just cultivated in so much anger. And I knew if I was after the really beautiful, deep, loving relationship that I wanted, and if I wanted to really be able to express who I am from the core of my gifts, of what I'm able to do in this world, I need to go in and be radically honest and start healing my heart, because that was something that was completely blocked, shut down, blocked. You could only get so far. And it was all these situations that would cut people out of my life, and the issues of like going into relationships, being what I thought they would want me to be, and then I would come out of my shell, and then the relationship would break apart because they're like, what, you're too strong, like, no, you need to be more submissive, or you need to be more like this, or you need to fit into a certain frame. And I'd always say, like, my hair can't fit into a frame, like, what the fuck, And through that journey of understanding all of that, and being very conscious that I knew if I wanted to freely express myself, be that creative person, be connected, help other women uncover that, help other women find themselves, help other women connect to their intuition, help other women know that feminine leadership is a thing, and we get to create this together. And sisterhood, despite all this other stuff, disconnect within that space as well, healing through love and compassion and forgiveness for myself first, and then a huge space was forgiveness and compassion for those who had done wrong to me. And one of those was the person who sexually abused me. That was huge, like huge, to be able to go, he must have been like really messed up to think that like this was okay. And there's a whole lot of psychological situations based on his experience that I was able to connect to and go, oh, okay. And then you mentioned earlier, do I want to give them my power or do I want to take it back? And it was that journey that helped me in various different situations, especially with that, to take my power back and no longer make him responsible for, I'm very conscious about how I say this because it is such a taboo situation.
Sorry to cut you off, but it's almost when you forgive someone, you remove the attachment or the emotional charge around that, and you draw your power back into your body.
Yeah.
So that helps to articulate it a little bit, but
yeah, I think it was like, it was that charge to the situation. That situation no longer exists. That situation happened. But I was taking myself back and reliving that situation over and over and over again. Every time I was like living through anger, every time I was not loving myself because I didn't think I deserved to love myself because I couldn't manage that situation and or run away from that situation. And the silence within that situation, because I just froze. On the different occasions, I just froze. And so I couldn't do anything. And there was so much shame around that. But it was learning to forgive for his situation, and then understanding that I was taking back my power and that I was now recreating that situation over and over and over and over and over again because that situation had ended. So was it his responsibility that I was reliving that? That was on me. And I know as horrible and triggering as this on its own can be, I was choosing to relive that, and that part is on me. The fact that situation happens to people, it's not on them. It's not like it's not their fault with regards to any of that. But what we do after that, and the healing journey through that, if that's a space that they want to be in and if they want to heal those wounds, is entirely up to them. But for me, I was reliving that situation and he had all of my power. The guys who, the sexual harassment situations, they all had my power. And I was like, no, this comes back to me now. And through that healing of love and compassion and forgiveness, coming back to those spaces where I felt that I should have done more and realizing that was exactly how it needed to play out for me to be able to do what I'm doing today and be able to understand those sticky situations more so.
Yeah.
And being able to work with women to also be their blind spots to understand those situations and come back with more compassion and more self-love for themselves.
Yeah.
So key.
I think, thank you so much for sharing that. That's, sometimes a little bit vulnerable, but I think that opens up the space for women to talk about that kind of stuff as well and their experiences, because it's almost as though you put your body into fight or flight mode where you closed off your heart, and no wonder you were disconnected from your body.
Yeah.
Because I feel that disconnection or disassociation is a protective mechanism for us not to feel. And therefore the way to overcome that is to learn to feel and to learn to let down those walls and those barriers that we've put up, or perhaps it is a facade or a layer of your identity that we put on to show up as. So, my experience of not being able to articulate my emotions and be fully expressed that way was was an outcome of me disassociating from my body at an early age, where I felt it was too painful to feel my emotions, so therefore I just shut them off.
Yeah.
And I went through most of my adult life like that. I just shut off. Whenever there was something too painful, too difficult, or something that I didn't want to confront, I would just shut off.
Become avoidant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Classic avoidant attachment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think learning to become aware of that, and obviously learning to feel everything, whether it's, and you know, it's hard sometimes feeling, you know, painful or reliving traumatic experiences is awful, but that's the way through it. We have to feel it to be able to reconnect to it, and then be able to release it from our bodies and not hold us back. And your story is like a very heartwarming and courageous one. So thank you. And look where you are now.
Living from love with a completely open heart. And oh my God. But of course, like, you know, it takes you into a situation where you're confronted with those challenges to see how open I actually was, and to know that, yeah, my heart is completely open and I'm going in, you know, vulnerably and being authentically myself and connected to my body, my intuition, who I am, and not carrying shame around that, and relearning that it's completely okay. It's completely okay to be me and to be all of who I am in every single situation.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned as well, what were you going to say?
Sorry, I think that's really a really crucial thing, is giving yourself permission to be you instead of being somebody else or what society wants you to be.
And that comes through feeling. It comes through feeling all of those emotions, that you can really be who you are and just get rid of the noise around you and all of those sorts of things. And I think for us as women, we have such a gift of like being able to talk to our girlfriends and open up and just say all the things that, you know, we need to say and express that off and get that off our chest. And it's such a challenge still for men to be able to do that. And knowing that there are men out there who are learning that it is okay to express their feelings, it is okay to have this conversation, is such a beautiful gift as well. And I think it's really important that from our end as females to reiterate that, yes, it is okay for men to go deep and feel those emotions and have those conversations about that and express how they feel, because, you know, that's where they get to be all of who they are, and that's how they can connect to their divine masculine and be in their truth and go on their journey of what they want to achieve through their truth of self-expression. And it comes so easy for us a lot of the time, and for men it's a societal thing of that disconnect where women can express how they feel, although like in the workplace it's kind of it's weak and no, don't express yourself. And then men are like have to shut down and be that's only strong and do the only strong thing, and not being able to express themselves emotionally, whereas they can express themselves sexually and do whatever they need to do sexually. And then it's a shame for us to, as women, to express ourselves sexually. There's so many disconnects that I think there are a lot of people now, a lot of people that we know that, and ourselves, that are in this space to help build that connection for both masculine and feminine, and see that it's okay for self-expression. It's okay to speak about how we feel. It's okay to feel those things. And then it's okay to be sexually expressive and play with that space. And then therefore creatively express ourselves and allow all of that stagnant energy to come out from our body in different ways, through writing, through dance, through painting, and play, and playing music, and singing, all of these different ways. It's really important to reiterate that that's a space men get to play in as well.
Absolutely agree with that. I think it's really attractive when men own that, and where men are more intuitive and more connected to their feminine energy and their and have that emotional intelligence. I think that's a really big quality in big quality out of especially when it comes to relationships, having that balance of the masculine and the feminine, which doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, the men have to do, like, you know, all the masculine jobs and the women do the cooking and the cleaning. I think it's a different contribution from
and energetic.
From both people, where it doesn't have to be defined that way. It just has to be an open flow of you know, balance and energy coming together, instead of, you know, that old fashioned, you know, it almost is like the men do this and the women do that, and they don't really meet.
Yeah, I think, you know, we all have, it's not by gender. So we all have feminine and masculine energy within us. It's what's more dominant, and what energy do you want to really lead through. And for me, I was very heavily in my masculine, because again, I didn't trust men. I didn't feel safe in my body. I didn't trust myself. And so that was key. Learning to trust myself gave me the ability to then trust men, because of all the situation I spoke about before. But I was able to trust men because I could trust myself. And so when I was in a situation that didn't feel good, I could take myself out of it, or I could have that conversation with them. And so for me, when I was younger, I was very much in my feminine, playful energy, and I had to take on the masculine mask, and that was part of the reason of not being able to trust. And then through the evolution of healing my heart and coming into this recent situation, where I was dating this incredible guy, and just noticing the shifts and noticing the dynamics between he and I, of him being in his masculine and holding space, and then me surrendering to that and just being, you know, where I just wanted to be in my feminine, and just like be in his arms and feel that safety and all of that kind of thing. But then also having that really yummy, nurturing, wanted to be there for him, to support him, like after a really hard day's work, or be there so he can talk to if he wanted, you know, and we were able to do that for each other. And it's such a beautiful thing. But it's that flow, because men can also dance in the feminine energy as well as the masculine. And as women, we can dance in both spaces as well. And we need both. We need the flow of both to help us achieve what we want to achieve, or help us be who we want to be. And it's that dance and understanding that for some of us, from females, some of us, that it's the feminine energy that we desire to lead and that we desire to live from. But that means, if that's the space we want to be in, that means that we're going to need to learn to trust ourselves, feel safe within ourselves, so we can then trust the masculine and feel safe with the masculine, and knowing that that's okay, and that space is there for us to play with, and give them, and by them I mean men in heterosexual relationships, and give them to be the space to be who they really are, and open themselves up and be able to be in their energy, and then come into unison and have that dance and have that play and have that flow. So important. And I think one more point. I'm so passionate about this stuff.
We could talk for hours.
Yeah, I know. One more point on that is that another misconception is that old school way of thinking that it needs to be like this and this. But in actual fact, when you come into the dynamics of a relationship, it's learning what works for both of you and learning how to flow in those energy spaces and what that dynamic looks like for each of you. Within this recent situation, I was also challenged because he was leading and I loved him to lead, but did that mean that I couldn't speak up about what I wanted to do, or like how does that work, or like what does that mean? Does he always need to pay? And I was like, well, he doesn't always need to pay. Like, I want to be able to do things, give him things too, and take us out. And like, it was just learning the space and understanding what worked for me and what worked for him in that dynamic. And communication, right? Everything's about communication. And so we had those conversations and were able to work those spaces out. And, you know, there was still like spaces of evolution within that if we had stayed together. We decided to end things because we both wanted different things. Yeah. And one thing was like, I never shamed him for wanting what he wanted, and he never shamed me for wanting what I wanted, because we were both able to give each other space to be who we are and come out of our shells and be our true authentic selves, to then like be in this thing that was like so beautiful for the time being that we were together in. And then we walk away from that situation and we're like, yeah, cool, we can be who we are, and there's no shame in that. And, you know, we can love ourselves for who we are and go and live and get in alignment and find the right people we want to have partnerships who want the same things.
Yeah. That's beautiful that you are able to have that conversation, because a lot of women might be too afraid to have such an open conversation. I think that's where the beauty is, in being able to express how you feel, what you need, and also from a male perspective, for them to be open to listening and you know, having that conversation.
He was the one to bring the conversation up.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, and the old me would have thought how do we adapt to this situation? Do I really want kids? Maybe I don't. I am 40. All of this other shit. And I was like, no, I want kids.
Who do I have to become to please him?
Yeah. He doesn't want kids, he doesn't want to get married. I want kids, I want marriage. So we were just able to own both of our spaces and have that honest, real conversation and be okay with it. And I was like, no, yeah, I want kids. It's like, okay, I don't. I'm like, okay, cool. So what now? We both know we're gonna go different directions, but there's no anger in it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, it just is.
No energetic charge left over.
Yeah, and there's like, you know, we often want to shame the other person for not wanting what we want, but what good is in that space? It's like, okay, that's how they feel. Let them feel that way.
Mm-hmm. I might have lost you. There we go, got you back.
We may have to wrap this up, unfortunately, because I'm getting the phone calls.
No problem. So thank you so much for joining me today. It was such a pleasure to chat to you and for you to share your experiences and to show up as yourself. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having me. It was so much fun. And yes, we could definitely talk so much more all about this and go on and on and on.
We could be on a live for a full day, I think.
I know, I think so.
Yeah, I think it's been really good, and I hope that people watching have enjoyed this. And if anyone has any questions that we didn't get time to go into, you can send us a message or pop a comment below and we'll answer them for you.
We can always do a part 2.
We could do a part 2. That's a great idea.
Thank you
so
much
lovely.
for holding the platform to be able to share around self-expression. It's really is so important, and it's such a space that a lot of people are challenged with. And I think the both of us can be such a really beautiful example of being ourselves and doing the things, doing what we desire, and living in our truth, and with giving them permission to do the same.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is my intention behind having these lives, is to open up more conversations and create a space for people to interact and talk about what their passion is and their story and their journey behind that, because what you see now is not what possibly would have been years back. So
can you imagine if we had cameras on us back then?
I would not be showing up. I would not be talking. I would not be showing up. I would be hiding somewhere.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
No worries at all. And I'll pop your link into the live if anyone wants to work with you. Just quickly, are you doing any creative events coming up?
I run a workshop called Dream Out Loud. Dream Out Loud is all about self-expression through painting, and it comes into the space of manifestation. So bringing the modalities and bridging it's the quantum leap of bridging that gap from where you are now to where you want to be, through feeling the emotions, through color and self-expression on canvas, to collapse that gap, so then they can live their dreams out loud, hence the name Dream Out Loud. And that's going to be coming up in a few months. So I'm just working on a couple of dates, and then looking at launching a program around self-expression and finding yourself and being your true authentic being. So that will also come out soon. Yes. And then of course the one-on-one coaching is available as well.
Excellent.
Where we go real deep. We go real deep. Yeah.
I'll have to pop your website or your link into the description for this live, so send that across to me, and people who want to work with you can get in contact with you.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
That's all right, my love. Lovely to have you and talk to you, and I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.